it was literally everything that you have been talking to me about for so many years. And you said, Brian, you have this memory that isn't necessarily the truth, and you need to examine it to find out how you can go to the next level. And I literally did it in real time with your voice narrating through this film. So thank you, because now I look at that event very, very differently, almost empowering to me as opposed to this limiting belief. But I was stuck in my brain in the past with this memory. So
I think when our perception about the past changes, our perception about the future changes as well.
Oh, man, so much so. And it was so strange because I just locked onto this narrative and I just ran it on autoplay in my brain. And of course it was true because I said it was true. But when I actually spoke to my parents and realized that this wasn't the worst thing that happened to me, maybe it was the best thing that happened to me, and maybe one of the best things that happened to them too. And it wasn't them letting me down as a child. It was almost letting them each break free and become the versions of themselves they needed to be. And so sometimes I actually have to correct people now when they say, oh, your mom and dad did that to you. And I'm like, no, that's not what it was. It was actually something that I see now as a defining moment for me as a human as well.
Sure. And I think it's important for us to examine that because it's so easy to become that, later on in our life, because that's our exposure to what we think love is, what we think family is about. And it's just the narrative or the story that we tell about the past that fills in the gaps of the things we don't understand. So we make up a story about that part we don't understand, and that becomes what we fire and wire in our brain. And then that analysis really just, there's no answers in that analysis. I think we have to step outside of the analysis and the emotions to kind of see it the way it really is. So I think it's healthy, and for the most part, I think we can change as a result of it.
Is this a lot of the work ultimately that you do with people? I know you do lots of different things, and I want to get into it today, but is looking at some of those loops or those traumas of the past or those memories and trying to free them up to move to the next step, is that a big part of what you do? Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.
The process of change, what I've discovered, requires unlearning. That's the hard part about change, is unlearning, and then it's relearning. It's literally breaking habits that we have within ourselves, and then after we break those habits of thought, of behavior, and emotion, is to reinvent a new self. It's pruning synaptic connections and sprouting new connections. It's unfiring and unwiring and refiring and rewiring. It's losing your mind, really, and creating a new one. It's deprogramming and reprogramming. It's unmemorizing emotions that are stored in the body and then reconditioning the body to a new mind and to a new emotion. And so everybody has a story about the past or their past. And we tell those stories based on the emotions we experience from the past. And the stronger the emotion that we feel from some incident, some experience in our life, the more altered we are inside of us, the more we pay attention to what's causing it. And that moment becomes a moment frozen in time. And the brain takes a series of snapshots, and that's called a memory. So then we think neurologically within the circuits of our own personal subjective experience of that reality based on the feeling that we get from the experience. I think the problem is that most people don't know that when they think about the event, they're producing the same changes chemically in their brain and body as if the event was occurring. So you review the event 50 to 100 times in one day, and it takes the thought and the feeling the images and the emotions, the stimulus and response that starts the conditioning process of the body actually living in the past. Now, the challenge is the firing and wiring of that memory may not be the truth, but it's the truth for you. And the emotions then become the boundary of what feels familiar and what feels known. And so the person can actually live a healthy life and go on with their life a whole way in spite of the trauma. The challenge is by living by that same emotion, it becomes so familiar to us that guilt or shame or unworthiness or fear just becomes how we normally feel. And so those feelings tend to drive our thoughts, right? And if you can't think greater than how you feel, and feelings and emotions are the record of the past, then for the most part, you're thinking in the past. And if how you think and how you feel creates your state of being, well, your entire state of being is in the past. Now, the challenge is that the body is so objective. It doesn't know the difference between the event that created the trauma 15, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago and the chemistry, the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. The body's believing it's living in the same past experience. So then the person is actually viewing or perceiving reality through the lens of the past. And so anything that triggers anything that they can associate that's relatively familiar, then the big thing is get ready because you don't want that to happen again in your future. So the brain is always forecasting the worst case scenario based on the memory of the past.